When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Skims or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/income.
Hi everyone, I'm Deb Flashenberg. Welcome to Yoga, Birth, Babies, a podcast produced by Prenatal Yoga Center. We will be diving into everything prenatal yoga, birth, and baby related, hoping to inspire, educate, and empower you through your journey into motherhood. Thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Deb Flashenberg, and I'm your host of Yoga Birth Babies, and today we have a community birth story. I was thinking of the title for this, and it popped into my head very quickly. I'm calling it a mindful and magical birth because our guest Agathe talked about the mindfulness that she created throughout pregnancy, very much in connecting with her baby, how her partner connected with her baby all through the pregnancy part of her experience, and then the mindfulness of her birth and her postpartum. It's beautiful. It was just a beautiful experience that she shared, and I'm really excited for you to hear about it. Also in this conversation, Agatha talks a little bit about the anxiety that she had in pregnancy. And the reason I want to highlight that is because I think it's very common. And if you, the listener, feel that, Agatha talks a lot about how she worked through that and how she started to build trust with herself and her baby to help her through this experience. So I think it's a really valuable part of her story. So let me just tell you a little bit about our guest. So as I mentioned, her name is Agatha. It's actually, I'm not going to pronounce it correctly. She said I can call her Agatha because it's French. I believe it's Agathe, or Agathe. I think it's Agathe. And she's originally from Paris, and she moved to New York City 9 years ago where she met her husband on the first day in the city. She was telling us about this in the opening of the conversation. I told her it's like a rom-com. All right. So then she's been here, as mentioned, for 9 years, and her baby was born in November of 2024. So not that long ago. And I'm really excited for you to hear this just amazing story. Before we get to the birth story, I always love to touch base about what's happening at Prenatal Yoga Center. So really the best way to get our updated schedule for our classes, our workshops, our teacher training, head to our website. It is packed full of so many things, including some new pictures that we just did at a little photo shoot. So you can check all those out. And we have our blog. We've got our past podcast episodes. It's really, and it has some free videos as well. So much you can check out over there. The last thing I want to mention is that on the website, we have a podcast application. So if you think you would be a great guest for us, please fill that out. I'm always looking for new stories and new guests and new perspectives. So check that out. Let me know who you are and if you have a story to share. And then always a big thanks. As you listen to this, we are just going to be a month or so away from our big 23rd birthday. Can you believe that? Prenatal Yoga Center is going to be 23 years old. That is wacky and wild. So a big thank you to you, the community who has been part of our experience somewhere in the journey in these 23 years. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being in our classes. Thank you for being in our community. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and we come back. Please enjoy the birth story.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
Hi, Agatha. How are you?
Hi, Deb. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. I love hearing community birth stories. So the fact that we get to connect and you can share a little bit about your birth and your preparation, it means a lot that you're opening up. And I know it's such a personal thing. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much again for having me. It's really, I mean, I'm looking forward to share and yeah.
All right. So let's jump in with just share a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Agathe. Oh, you can call me Agatha, as I said, and I'm from France. And I came to New York 9 years ago for my studies. And actually, on the very first day here, I met the man who then became my husband.
Oh, wow.
And we've been together now for nine years, living in New York, starting our careers here, and we got married since, and we had our baby girl just 6 months ago today, the 1st of November last year.
That's like a sitcom or rom-com. Like move to the city on your first day, meet your future husband. Oh my gosh, you got to sell that story. All right, so let's jump into how did you prepare for your birth?
So, as a first time being pregnant, I took it quite seriously, and I really wanted to make sure that by the time of the birth, I would have done absolutely everything I could to prepare as well as possible. And so, I thought, I should prepare physically and in a way also mentally and emotionally. So physically, it was really important for me to continue like exercising as much as possible, or of course like adapting, right? Like every week and every semester I had to adapt and adjust. But I started like going to the swimming pool, and of course going to prenatal yoga at your studio, Deb, which throughout the pregnancy helped me tremendously. Also doing physical therapy for pelvic floor, which I thought was very helpful. And as the third trimester arrived in terms of physical preparation, we also started doing like perianal massage, and as well as, and when possible, like prenatal massage and also prenatal acupuncture. In fact,
Good.
all this like on the physical side was very helpful. But in a way, there was kind of like not enough. And I think we'll talk about it because I was very anxious about the birth. So I wanted to also prepare mentally and emotionally. So I'm someone who does yoga and meditation and was doing it even before being pregnant. So it really talked to me, and I started doing what we call hypnobaby and hypnobirthing, which I'm not going to go too much into it because I'm not an expert, but just like some type of like meditation and visualization related to pregnancy and to birth, kind of fear releasing type of exercise, but also visualization with your baby in a scenery that you love and share, and trying to kind of connect with her. I say her because I knew it was a baby girl. So that was very important mentally and emotionally. And something else that we did, I'm not sure if it's really known in the US, but it's called autonomy. Do you know about it?
No, I don't. Will you tell me about it?
Yeah, for sure. So autonomy is actually something that is kind of popular in France, and it's a practice of the touch. So apto, I think in Greek it means touching. So it's kind of a practice to establish like a connection between the parents and the baby in the womb, using touching and stroking of the belly. In a way, you learn how to touch the belly, and you learn how your baby reacts to it and moves to it. And it's in a way it creates, it starts creating basically this bond with your baby in utero.
I love that. Did you notice when you touched at certain times, like baby reacted or had a pattern of touching back?
Absolutely. And it was one of the most magical kind of things that we did during the pregnancy. And yes, absolutely. Like we would, in a way, we would almost like play with her.
Yeah.
So touching in one side and learning how she would react and maybe come to that side or the other. And we could feel her and play with her. And in a way, also, the point is also to create a feeling of security for her and safety. That, okay, we are here, her parents, and she'll get to know us when she comes out, and we'll be there throughout. And in a way, it's going to be reassuring for her.
I have
At least,
never heard of this, and I absolutely love it. I mean, actually, as you're speaking, I'm like, note to self, look this up.
Mhm.
It seems so amazing and obvious that we haven't done this, like you're creating this connection. You're already, I love what you said about assuring her, creating safety, getting to know her. She's getting to know you. And I
Mhm.
also love that by touching your belly, because some people get kind of fearful of touching their belly. Like when I tell people you can start to get a sense of where your baby is by touching your belly, some
Mhm.
people get really nervous about that, especially sometimes the partners. So what an amazing way to really have the three of you connect. Oh, wow. Thank you for
Mhm.
educating me. Wow. So you mentioned that you want to talk a little bit about anxiety because you were a bit anxious about the birth itself. So you mentioned the physical preparation, the bonding preparation of you and baby. How did you work on the anxiety part?
Yeah, I was anxious, and I had kind of like these horror scenes in my mind of like really kind of like extreme, um, with blood everywhere and screaming and chaos. And I don't know, and this was in a way how I was kind of imagining it. And I really wanted to relax, of course, and to imagine and create something totally different, than what for some reason kind of like society had put me into my head. And so the way I worked on it was, of course, I mean, there is one thing where for me, it was important to learn about like medically and physically what would happen to my body during birth time. So, I took some childbirth classes and kind of prepared for my birth plan, and that was very helpful. But most importantly, I think I really focused on the idea that birth or the birthing time is really a partnership with the baby, and that I should really trust her and the baby. And that it's not about me going to the hospital and undergoing a medical procedure, but it's really about this moment of like teamwork with this little one that I'll be getting to know very soon, and whom I have to accompany, right, and guide through this process. And I think kind of like shifting this image of birth time as, on its head, and kind of like seeing it now as like, okay, well, I'm the responsible adult here, and it's actually the baby who is going to go through something pretty traumatic, and I want to be there for her.
Mhm.
And I should also trust her that she knows kind of like what she's doing and that we are going to work together in that. And focusing on that on that idea specifically really helped me throughout.
That is incredible. I know we often speak in class about the mantra, I trust my body, I trust my baby, I trust the process, but it seems like you really embraced and embodied that without maybe even knowing that mantra, but just really
Mm-hmm.
came to that understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And it's beautiful because I guess it can take some of the fear and anxiety out if you reframe it like, this is between me and baby. We've got
Mm-hmm.
this. We're working together. That
Mm-hmm.
is, oh wow. Oh wow. I love that. All right. I want to start to hear your birth story, but before we do that, we're actually going to take a quick break and then we come back. I'm just going to hand the mic to you and I want to hear it all. All right. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
This episode is brought to you by San Pellegrino. A meal isn't just about what's on your plate. It's about what you bring to the table. San Pellegrino believes the table is where the best of life happens. That's what makes gathering around it so rich and rewarding. And with their unique, sparkling natural mineral water, San Pellegrino brings its best so you can bring yours.
The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Okay, we are back. I'm so excited to hear this story based on what you just shared about envisioning and embodying this idea of partnership and how baby and you are working together in the birth. I'm so curious to hear how this unfolded. So the mic is yours. Share your story.
Thank you. So on the first day of my 37 week of pregnancy, it was a Wednesday, everything was a nice day. I went to work. I came back at night, and that night, again, so week 37, I started having contractions. I had never had contractions until then. And throughout the night, I had contractions. And these were kind of irregular contractions, and sometimes actually they would pick up for like 15 minutes, half an hour, and the app, how you can use app to count the contractions, would tell us, get ready to go to the hospital. But then the level of the contraction would decrease again. And so it kind of happened that way for the whole night. So, the next morning, I was trying to call the OBGYN, trying to understand what should I do. And she would tell me, well, my dear, you should come to triage. I think we should, check you and see like where you're at. And I'm like, well, wait, this is not at all like I'm not in any of the scenarios that you told me about when I should go to the hospital. The contractions are not regular, they are not frequent, and I'm apparently not in an emergency situation. Am I? I'm asking her, and she was like, no, you're having a perfectly normal conversation with me. So clearly you're not in an emergency situation. So as you like. Okay, well, good luck then. Okay. She's amazing. She's an amazing doctor. She couldn't force me to go there. So, kind of like just throughout the day, I continue having contractions, and with my husband, we realize, wait, nothing is ready for the baby. So like in just like 2 or 3 hours, we start like, preparing everything, like the nursery, starting like, putting the crib together, taking out boxes of diapers, bottles, etc. For me, like preparing the suitcase, which I had not prepared yet, although I was at week 37. So beware. And, trying to like prepare kind of like, a few stuff that I thought I needed. And then come the night. So it was Thursday, the 31st of October. So as you can imagine, I could see through my window kind of Halloween celebrations while having mild contractions. And I was wondering, okay, what's going to happen? And from the night, and that night, from Thursday to Friday, same, I continued like having irregular contraction, not frequent, sometimes very intense, but then decreasing again. I didn't know what to do, basically. And I had not learned about this scenario, although, as you can tell from my story, like I had, learned about, I thought I had learned about the scenarios possible, etc. In any case, on the Friday morning at 9 a.m., fortunately, I had this weekly appointment with my OB. And so we decided to go there instead of going to the triage. And my husband was like, well, let's at least take the suitcase for the hospital. We never know. And we get there. Clearly, I'm squatting in the waiting room. I'm not well. And the midwife sees me, kind of checks me there. And she's like, wait, but you are actually in labor. You're like already like 4 centimeters like dilated, and the cervix is totally effaced. So you absolutely have to go to the hospital now, and it can go very fast. And I was like, and she was like, "You go, girl, you go, you're going to have this baby." And I'm like, "What, today?" Like, that was not the plan, and we actually had a lot of plan for that weekend, including like a maternity photo shoot, and we were planning kind of like our last romantic weekend and whatnot. But clearly, like, our baby had other plans in mind, and we were really excited about it, actually. And I had this sense of excitement. Oh, wow, like, I'm already in active labor. Like, things actually have not happened the way I was thinking they would happen so far. So it's actually a good surprise. And maybe things are going to happen, the right way. And so arriving at triage, I see my doctor is there, and she was like, "Hi, girl, I told you yesterday to come to the hospital, but here you are. That's good. You're actually undergoing something that is called protracted labor, and it's a labor that is not picking up." So I'm like, okay, good to know. So she's like, "I'm happy that you're here. We're going to take care of you and the baby. Everything's all right." And contractions were still kind of mild at that point, and I was doing a lot of deep breathing. And this is something that helped me, the nights before and throughout that day. Deep breathing, and visualization and meditation, everything that I had kind of like learned to do throughout pregnancy, I was using then to help me overcome the contraction and really think that, my baby is there. She wants to go out. She wants to meet us and be in the world with us. And that's it. That's the time, So I still in triage room, trying to focus, do deep breathing, squatting also, because I had heard that could help. And I arrived at the delivery room. It was 3 p.m. in the afternoon. And actually, she was born at 6 p.m. So, yeah, it was really fast. But of course, I didn't know that. And when I arrived in the labor and delivery room at 3 p.m., I really thought that, I'd be here the whole weekend, basically.
Were you feeling the contractions at that point starting to pick up? And if so, like, what were you? No, not really. Okay. All right. Keep going.
No,
I'm curious.
Not really. That's why, and actually that's why I did not choose at that time to take the epidural, because I knew I wanted to have an epidural, but later I thought I would have it like during active labor. And so I knew I was not yet like in fully active labor. And so I wanted to wait. And the doctor, because she was telling me, "Okay, you're in protracted labor, and actually the labor is not progressing, we're going to give you like the smallest dose of Pitocin to help you." So I'm like, okay. And actually at that moment, everything really started to go very fast. Like in about 1 hour, I started having extremely strong contractions.
So did they give you the pit at that point, or did things just turn the corner on their own?
No, they gave it to me.
A little pit. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they did. Also, my water broke at that time, kind of like around the same time. And from there, everything went really fast. And in just like an hour, I was having extremely strong contractions, very frequent, kind of, I'm not sure, but like maybe every 3 minutes, every 2 minutes. And at that point, I was really in need of the epidural, and I asked for it. So they came, they put me the epidural, and I was telling them, "Listen, like, I feel the pressure. It's so huge. I feel like I'm going to explode. Like, is that normal?" And they're like, "Well, we probably need to check you then." And really, it was just like, it was 5 p.m. now. And they're like, "Oh, wow, actually, you're already 9 centimeters. And so I basically got the epidural. I was already 9 centimeters, which was a pity in a way. I was hoping I could have it before. But in any case, okay. So the doctor is like, "Okay, now try to rest just for an hour. The baby will be here soon." I'm like, "What do you mean the baby will be here soon?" Like, just yesterday, I could not believe that nothing was ready yet. And so here we were. me trying to rest for a bit, although the contractions were very intense. And just like about half an hour later, I was, listen, you need to check me again. It's extremely painful. Like I feel the, I feel the pressure on the belly, and therefore, like, you need to check. And indeed, the doctor came and she said, like, okay, all right, the baby is coming immediately. So we need to be ready. So suddenly everyone arrives in the room. And I had, at week 37, basically I had done a few childbirth classes, but I still had to do my last one when I had to learn to push and to do all that. And I had not had the time to do it. So it's at that time that the doctor was just explaining to me how to do it. And she was extremely kind and careful. And she was like, oh my God, the head is already here, basically. The baby like really wants to go out. She's already here. And I couldn't believe it. But in just like 5 pushes, basically, she was there and she was on me. And throughout that time, right before she arrived, like my husband and I were looking at each other and we're like, can you imagine? Like, this is the moment like we've been preparing for, that we've been waiting for, that we've been talking about, that we've been dreaming of. And that's it. It's happening, and it's happening so fast. And this is not something that we could have imagined. And suddenly, the doctor, she was like, that's it. The baby, she's here. And she put the baby on my chest. And it was like the most magical time. And she was on me, and I was like, I kept telling like, my love, welcome, you're here. Like, and we were so glad that everything went so beautifully well, and that that she was fine, and that she seemed okay, although she was super kind of tiny for a week 37 baby.
How big was she when she was born?
I know in centimeters. So about 50 centimeters. So actually she was not that tiny for a 37-week baby.
Oh my goodness. I can't believe it happened so quickly. So tell me about the pushing, because you were saying the doctor was explaining it, but you hadn't really had a chance to learn about it yourself. What was that like? Did it feel powerful? Was it feeling confusing? Because you're like, I'm trying to figure it out in the moment. Was it just thinking, okay, I'm working with my baby and we're doing this together? What was the pushing like?
No, exactly. I mean, at that point, I was thinking, okay, she's here. That's the moment for her that is going to change her life, basically. So, like, I was trying to kind of like be with her. So be focused on her, and also appreciate kind of the moment. But also, to be honest, like, of course, I was scared because the last hour was a bit painful, let's say, and I was a bit worried that it would continue to be as painful. And actually, the doctor was telling me, no, you'll see, it's going to be a relief, and just do what I'm going to tell you to do, and you're going to be fine. And this is actually how it felt, kind of a relief. And so, yeah, I learned on the kind of like on the spot. But it was very reassuring from me, like, to hear from the doctor that she could see her hair and see her head, and that's it. She was coming. And actually, I think for many women, like, that's potentially like the moment that is kind of like the scariest. And same, I had so many conceptions about what could happen, what would not happen. But in fact, in that moment, surprisingly, I did not think of any of these aspects. Like, what was really important for me is that, wow, that's actually the crucial moment when the baby is finally gonna be there. And it's, everything I prepared for, it's for that moment. So I really wanted to make sure that she would arrive in the most kind of welcoming and loving environment.
That is so beautiful and so mindful. It really is. I really appreciate that. So, what happened next? So then baby's on you. What was going on after that? You went to your room, or did you guys have some quiet time together? How did things continue?
Absolutely. We had some quiet time together, the skin to skin moment. Actually, it was beautiful because it was only sunset in New York. And so we could see it from our window. And still, we could not believe that, like, that same morning, I was supposed to go to work. We had absolutely not planned for her to arrive that early. And yet she did. And here we are. Actually, on that night, we were supposed to go to a concert. And we're looking at the time. It was only 6 p.m. when she was born. And we were joking. We were like, oh my God, we can actually still make it to the concert.
Let's find a sitter. We'll go.
And, even the doctors and the nurse, they're like, oh my God, we can't believe that we're going to be home for dinner. Like, you're good. Yeah. So yes, we did. It was important for us to do, of course, for skin to skin, and then for also her dad to be with her skin to skin. When we arrived at our room, postpartum room. Same, like it's a bit weird for me to talk about all this like in such an emotional and in such an emotional way, because I could not think that it could happen so in a way so magically. And even our postpartum stay at the hospital, like we keep a beautiful memory of it. All the nurses there, all the doctors were so amazing, and we were sad in a way to leave after 2 days, but possibly also because again we felt that everything arrived so quickly we could barely realize it. And so these first days with her, just to watch her and to discover this new face that you've been thinking about for these past 9 months, 8 months for me, was absolutely a beautiful and magical encounter, and after the birth, actually, how as I was telling you that we were using autonomy to touch our belly and to connect with her. So after she was born, in a way, we continued like this type of massages and moment with her to try also to create some continuity from the moment in the womb to her new life here on earth.
So was there a few moments or a little bit of a time, because you had 2 days at the hospital and it did happen pretty quickly and 37 weeks is technically the birth window, but most people don't go there. So while technically it's there, of course, most people are like, that's not going to be me. How did you, once she was out, kind of get your mind around, okay, we've shifted gears, here we are, we're moving forward? Was there a moment, or you and your husband has sat there and be like, wow, I can't believe that happened. Now we got to move forward?
Yeah. And actually that happened probably before she was born, really like, the day before, when after a full night of contractions, we realized that, oh, well, it can happen, today or the next day. And we got to be ready. Like we have to become parents. But fortunately, the fact that we had prepared for it for weeks or months was really helpful. And I think we're going to talk about it, but we prepared for childbirth, but we actually also prepared for postpartum.
Well, yes, let's go into that, because I did want to talk about postpartum, especially because you'd mentioned anxiety about the birth. I'm curious, did that show up during postpartum?
Well, I was also anxious about being anxious in postpartum.
Anxious about the anxious. That's exactly. Funny. I like that.
But it did not happen. And I was, also similarly, I was surprised about that. But I think what made the whole difference is that we prepared, but like technically and physically for that moment. Meaning, we had read a lot about what it's called in some societies, the golden months. right? So this idea that kind of like the 40
40
days,
days. Yeah.
40 days following birth, like supposed to be a time of really strong bonding with your baby and of rest, nourishment, and recovery for the parents, and therefore, like, we had actually kind of like planned for that. So like, okay, kind of put a support system around us, right? So in terms of food, making sure that I would be able to recover from the birth, so that I could eat well, like kind of like morning, lunch, and night. And so for that, like, we had like frozen some food. We had actually in New York, there are a lot of postpartum meal delivery plans that one can subscribe to and that are amazing, where you get like specifically postpartum meals delivered to your house. That's pretty extraordinary. But also, like, again, like in the months leading to the birth, we actually like cooked and frozen some meals. Also, like making sure that in terms of, that in the apartment, everything was made so that I could recover. So there were at least like 2 resting areas, right? So in the bedroom, but also in the living room, a place where I could, start lactation. I mean, this is something that is not easy actually when in postpartum, and that is actually technically difficult, I found. And therefore, like, being able to do so and try doing so, like in a comfortable place, is so important. I don't know, many kind of like small things, but it actually kind of like make the difference, because you don't feel that you're kind of like left out.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel that, okay, I have what I need to properly recover and be nourished, and therefore kind of give the best to my baby when possible. I mean, yeah, to give the best of me to my baby. So that's,
Again,
I think,
so mindful. It's really, I like your thought process, your planning. So as you were speaking, and I don't know why I didn't connect this before because I knew you were from France. Did you ever think about how the postpartum would be here in the US compared to back at home in France, where you get more postpartum care? Were you trying to integrate any of that? Was it available in any way?
um, so we were actually extremely fortunate, because, okay, so here in the US, but like many of us in New York, it's just like it's just the two of us, let's say. So, but we were fortunate because, I mean, of course, like, I mean, we have friends around us who were ready to step in and help us, and many of them, like, provided food and came to bring presents and things for the baby, which was extremely generous. But also, through my husband, and I understand we were extremely privileged for that. We were able to have postpartum doulas coming
The
to.
best, the absolute best, having a postpartum doula.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. I mean, I think that this is really one of the reasons why, I mean, we were able to go about this time in the most magical way, because you have professionals coming to your home, helping you with lactation, helping you changing the baby, like helping her like take her first bath, like all this. I had no experience with babies before, like many first-time parents, and having someone we could rely on and talk and call in the first weeks was extremely helpful, in particular because, again, our baby was born a bit earlier than expected, and therefore our families were not around, and they did not arrive until the next months.
I'm so glad you brought up the postpartum doula, because I know in France you have midwives that come and that's just part of it. But I'm so glad you brought that up because we had that for my first, actually we had it for both my kids, but especially my first and I had been around babies, but after a birth experience and then the whole shock of, okay, we're a parent, having someone there. And for listeners, I'm just going to throw this out there. What my friends did for me, instead of like onesies and other things, they saved up and they got me some hours of a postpartum doula. So I'm just putting out there for listeners that you may want to forego some of the smaller gifts and have people put towards a postpartum doula, because I think it's one of the best things you can do for yourself in that transition. Sorry, I hijacked the conversation for a hair second, but
no, that's perfect. This is exactly what we need to say.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad to hear that. Is there anything else about your postpartum you want to share?
That I think, I'm not sure I actually mentioned it that much during now my story, but, having a birth partner was so important during the birth. And in a way, the same way that kind of like a support system after the birth is. These two aspects are really made the whole difference for me and I think for my baby too, and really helped relieved many of the anxieties and helped really focusing on the moment and focusing on bonding with our baby. So yeah.
That's beautiful. Okay, we're going to take another break. When we come back, what is one final tip or piece of advice you'd like to offer to new and expectant parents? We will be right back.
Switch to Verizon Business and get more from your internet without paying more for your internet. Get LTE Business Internet starting at $39 a month when paired with select business mobile plans. That's unlimited data, and with it, unlimited possibilities. Start saving today with Verizon Business, ranked #1 in small business internet customer satisfaction by J.D. Power. Starting price for 25 megabits per second LTE internet plan with smartphone plan savings, plus taxes, fees, and economic adjustment charge. Terms apply. For J.D. Power 2024 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
Okay, we're back. So what is that one final tip or piece of advice you'd like to offer new and expectant parents?
Sure. So if it's okay, I'll give two that actually worked for me. The first one is, as you can hear, like really try to plan and prepare as much as possible for the birth, but also for the postpartum time. This is actually going to be very worthwhile and rewarding. And second, and I think most important, is really remember to trust yourself and your baby throughout. And really focus on this love and this connection that you have with them, and see the whole adventure as a teamwork and a partnership. And that really changed everything for me.
That's amazing. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Just to say thank you, Deb, because really the prenatal yoga classes have been extremely helpful to us as well. The baby used to love it. She would move a lot when we would come. So
I love hearing that. Oh, thank you. I love having the community share their stories, because it's amazing seeing people go through their pregnancies. And then I hear some things, in postnatal or baby and me, but to really have the opportunity for someone to dive in with someone and really hear how it went after watching kind of from afar as a teacher. So I'm just appreciative that you are so kind to share, because I think when other people hear about different experiences, I think it gives them confidence. So thank you for opening up and sharing.
Thank you very much, Deb. And really all the best to all the expecting parents. And really, and if I can, shout out to my best friend who is going to give birth in the coming weeks.
Oh my gosh, amazing. I hope it goes as beautifully as yours.
This has been an episode of Yoga Birth Babies, produced by Prenatal Yoga Center. You can catch us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Periscope. I'm Deb Flaschenberg. Thanks for listening.